Chapter 156, Dark Castle 6. Yu Jonghyuk. What was this situation all of a sudden? The strongest beings on the second floor of Dark Castle, sometimes they would descend as a test. This had happened in ways of survival. However, a demon Earl had never appeared in cases where Pink Kid Kim Yompel was part of the group. Besides that, why was the demon looking for Yu Jonghyuk after being summoned? I didn't answer, and the demon breathed in before looking at Lee Hyun-sung. Are you Yu Jonghyuk? I am Lee Hyun-sung. Then who is the person called Yu Jonghyuk? I opened my mouth. There was nothing good about stimulating the demon Earl here. Why do you want to find him? He isn't here, so go back. The demon Earl Tentasio laughed at my words. A bug is talking back to me. It's strange. I heard that the person who is Seoul's strongest person is here. Seoul's strongest? That sounds like me. The party members all looked at me at the same time. Why were they looking at me like that? It was true. Tentasio also stared at me. You said that you're not Yu Jonghyuk. The strongest in Seoul isn't Yu Jonghyuk. It is me. What the hell was going on? Why was he looking for the strongest in Seoul? The constellation Lady of the Brocade Sleep is sorry towards you. The constellation Lady of the Brocade Sleep is asking you to defeat this demon. Lady of the Brocade Sleep, I wondered reflexively. Suddenly, I got a sense of what was going on. You are staring at the constellations of Scylla. The constellations of Scylla are embarrassed. Yes, this was right. These bastards, they sold me to save their descendants. The constellation Lady of the Brocade Sleep shows what happened. The memory of Lady of the Brocade Sleep appeared in my head. The injured Min Ji-won stuttered as she opened her mouth. Seoul's strongest is Yu Jonghyuk. The constellation Lady of the Brocade Sleep is giving you a pathetic look. The act of showing one's memories required paying some probability and a significant amount of coins. The fact that she showed me her memory without hesitation meant the situation was urgent. Damn, then send him to Yu Jonghyuk. Why send him to me? Was I easy? I sighed lightly and spoke towards the air. Then what will you do for me if I help? The constellation Lady of the Brocade Sleep says she will pay coins. How much? Will you give me 2,000 coins again? The constellation Lady of the Brocade Sleep is embarrassed. Give me something else, something helpful. The constellations of Scylla have their pride damaged and are angry at Lady of the Brocade Sleep. The constellation Lady of the Brocade Sleep says she will pay a story. A story? A new bounty scenario has arrived. Bounty scenario, fight against the demon. Category sub. Difficulty level A+. Clear conditions, defeat the demon Earl Tentasio. Time limit. Compensation, the trust of the constellations of Scylla, 1 history grade story. Failure. A history grade story, it was fairly decent. In fact, I was already going to kill the demon Earl without any conditions. The constellations of Scylla weren't as powerful as a nebula, but there was nothing bad about them owing me a debt. I had to defeat this demon anyway. The demon Earl was tired of waiting and growled out, "Why are you speaking to yourself? Then you're not Yu Jonghyuk." A powerful airflow was released from Tentasio's body, and Lee Hyun-sung quickly stepped forward. Dokja SSI, I'll take care of him. Hyun-sung SSI, you can't do it alone. I will never lose the empty cartridge again. Han Soo-young whistled like it was interesting. Tentasio made a complicated expression and grinned. You don't know who your opponent is. I like trampling on people like you. You don't know who I am. The earth shook and Lee Hyun-sung ran forward as he activated steel transformation. Lee Hyun-sung's shoulders became covered with steel as he struck Tentasio's shoulder horns. Lee Hyun-sung had the courage to face the demon Earl without backing off. You are someone who inherited a story, Tentasio wondered. Lee Hyun-sung's steel transformation was a stigma obtained by inheriting a story from Master of Steel. With one exchange, the demon noticed the value of Lee Hyun-sung. He was an Earl and knew the value of a story. I'll eat it. Tentasio embraced Lee Hyun-sung's body. Lee Hyun-sung continuously struck him with fists, but Tentasio wasn't fazed. Fangs emerged from the demon's mouth, and he bit Lee Hyun-sung's shoulder. The strength of steel transformation was directly connected with Lee Hyun-sung's will. Unless his will was broken, Lee Hyun-sung's steel wouldn't be destroyed. Of course, this was written in ways of survival. However, it was only Lee Hyun-sung of the second half who fit such a wonderful description. Cracks started to appear in Lee Hyun-sung's hard steel. Lee Hyun-sung's expression started to pale. "What the hell is this?" Han Soo-young's eyes shook as she watched Tentasio. "Kim Dokja, what is that?" I didn't think the soul rankings announced by the Dakibai were wrong. Apart from me, Han Soo-young was the only one who knew the exact level of the demon Earl. I replied, "He is a third-grade demon." Demon species above the third grade had their own story. The third-grade demon, Tentasio, is telling the story of Bug Slaughter. Bug Slaughter. It was a pretty useful narrative. It wasn't in the form of a stigma yet, but its power exceeded the stigmas of incarnation since this was his own story. As Tentasio's story started to be released, all the incarnations, including Lee Hyun-sung and Han Soo-young, stood in place like hardened bugs. Lee Ji-hai and Lee Gil-young, who was still unconscious, twisted in pain, while Kim Yompol had already collapsed while foaming at the mouth. This was the real power of the story. It was to swallow other beings into the story. The frozen incarnations were waiting for their master's command. "It is the time of slaughter, bugs." Lee Hyun-sung's steel shattered helplessly and Han Soo-young's clones exploded. It was a complete wipeout. The story, Bug Slaughter, showed overwhelming power against many weak people. The Earls of the second floor were beyond measure. I held Lee Hyun-sung's shoulder as he was thrown back. Lee Hyun-sung was released from the fear at my touch, and he stuttered. "D-Dokja-SI. Move back. It isn't possible. If I don't protect Dokja-SI this time. A cartridge doesn't disappear so easily. Watch me." I patted Lee Hyun-sung's shoulder and walked forward. Tentasio laughed like it was interesting. "You can resist my story. You are someone with moderately strong mental power." "Mental power isn't the problem." "Then what, Neil Bug?" The pressure around us suddenly rose and people fell to their knees. Of course, I was fine. Tentasio was confused as he watched me walking casually. It was thanks to fourth wall. There was also a more fundamental difference. "Answer me, how can you move?" "In order to get that story, you have to pick at least 100,000 people with weak stories and kill them. You're quite a nasty bastard." "What?" This was the difference in status. Still, Bug Slaughter is a fairly usable story, at least when the enemy is weaker than you. You aren't interested in the Bug Slaughter story. The effect of Bug Slaughter is negated by you. Tentasio's eyes widened. "At least Marquis grade, perhaps a Demon King." "No, that isn't likely. Are you a returnee?" The peak of the demon species, the 72 Demon Kings were equivalent to narrative grade constellations. But a returnee can't be on the first floor of Dark Castle. That's right, both are wrong. An existence with their status revealed was constrained by probability. You are looking at the Demon Earl, Tentasio. Tentasio turned pale. I didn't delay and rushed towards Tentasio while using white pure star energy. Blade of Faith has been activated. The special option of Unbroken Faith is activated. The ether attribute is converted to divine. The new texture of Unbroken Faith was unfamiliar to me. "Kuok!" The demon screamed painfully as the ends of his horns were cut off. The second strike flew towards Tentasio before he could move. It wasn't just that the Earl's story wasn't effective on me. My movements itself were different from ordinary constellations. The demon gritted his teeth. "A constellation? No way, this is impossible." I wondered if I should borrow Messiah's path again, but I didn't need to use the quotation against Bug Slaughter. There was a limit to the number of quotations, and I also needed to check my abilities without a story. First, I needed to adjust my stats. Let's see. Physique LV, 62. Physique LV, 90. Strength LV, 60. Strength LV, 90. Agility LV, 60. Agility LV, 90. Magic Power LV, 62. Magic Power LV, 90. All stats have increased significantly. A total of 116,400 coins have been consumed. It was huge spending, but it was worth it. Your body is moving towards the limits of a human. A formidable energy has filled your body. All stats have reached the scenario limit. My heart beat faster as if I had received a caffeine transfusion. The adrenaline level in my body increased sharply, and my body became as light as a feather. My stats had an average level of 90. There was probably no one among the incarnations who had my stats. This was the only thing I could do as a constellation. Then let's go. I relentlessly swung my sword. Tentacion's body was torn by the blade. Tentacion didn't fall easily despite my stats suddenly rising. He seemed to be strengthening his body using his remaining magic power. It was a wise choice because the story didn't work. Kueya. Tentacion let out a terrible scream. As the battle continued, 1 or 2 injuries appeared on my body. As expected, I couldn't fight him without any skills. Then this would work. The special skill Miniaturization LV3 is activated. The effect of miniaturization has decreased the size of your body. What? The exclusive skill bookmark is activated. I will choose the 5th bookmark, Kiagio's Rodgram. It is confirmed that your body composition is similar to the corresponding character. The status of the character is higher than you. The level of the skill is being forcibly adjusted. Normally the messages would end here. However, one more line popped up. Your status has risen and coordination with the person will increase. Chapter 157, Tomb of the Scenario 1. The white storm energy caused my heart to pound, and my body changed into an engine. The exclusive skill Electrification LV 11+1 has been activated. Due to the increase in my status, the skill level reached 11. In essence, all skill levels were restricted to level 10. After that, people had to learn better skills or use transcendence like the returnees. Yet this skill was level 11. Now my electrification had exceeded the limits of the system. It wasn't as hard to use electrification as usual. The returnee Kiagios had a strength comparable to a powerful narrative-grade constellation. He was a strong figure whose depth couldn't be measured. Now I could get a glimpse of how much strength Kiagios had. If Kiagios had reached a realm that could never be reached, I got a glimpse of where he had gone. Tentacion was terrified beyond his surprise. A constellation with a returnee's ability. What on earth are you? I wanted to say my name, but then my grumpiness got to me. What? I am Yu Zhanghyuk. Tentacion's body was torn in two by the explosive power of electrification and the blade of faith. The electric current around the sword blew off his arms and legs before his head rolled across the ground. He couldn't even scream. My level 90 magic power was instantly exhausted and fatigue pulled in. Still, my level was clear. Yu Zhanghyuk, shit, I was scared to death. The fallen head was talking. Incarnation, do you know what it means to be a constellation? What nonsense was he suddenly saying? You will regret giving me your name. What? Demon Earl Tentacion has used Death Scream. Demon Earl Tentacion has spread the name Yu Zhanghyuk through Dark Castle. The Dark Castle rankers will remember the name Yu Zhanghyuk. I hadn't expected this. The Dark Castle rankers are baring their teeth towards the incarnation, Yu Zhanghyuk. I felt a bit sorry. I really hadn't intended for this to happen. However, Yu Zhanghyuk should also suffer a bit. You have hunted Demon Earl Tentacion. A 3rd-grade demon has been killed for the 5th time, and 30,000 coins have been acquired. Transparent strings started to appear around Tentacion's corpse. From the Dark Castle scenario onwards, we could kill those who had stories and take them away. I stretched out my hand and grabbed the string. The history-grade story Bug Slaughter has been acquired. Bug Slaughter. This story would be enough to hatch the 41st regression Sing-Shong. By the way, could I feed her the story of a demon? Would her mentality get worse if I fed it to her? You have completed the bounty scenario. The constellation, Lady of the Brocade Sleep, feels deep appreciation towards you. You are now able to receive the protection of the Scylla constellations. The protection of the Scylla constellations. They might seem insignificant, but they were also constellations. If I built up a relationship with them, there would surely be a day when they could help me, just like the Absolute Throne situation. The history-grade story, Scylla Allied Forces, has been received. Scylla Allied Forces. The constellation, Lady of the Brocade Sleep, is laughing heartily. Well, she said she would give me a history-grade story, not that it would be a good one. It didn't matter since I could feed it to Sing-Shong. My party members recovered their spirits and approached me. Shit, Kim Doctor is crazy. Dr. Sasai, how strong are you? I grinned at them. Lee Hyun-sung looked down at his shoulders that had been bitten by Tentasio. Are there many enemies like him on the second floor? There are some, but it is uncommon. This guy's ranking is probably... A message finally popped up in the air. 50,000 coins have been acquired as a main scenario reward. The main scenario content has been updated. You have won a place in Dark Castle. You have hunted the 10th place demon on the Dark Castle rankings, Tentasio. Ranking will be in proportion to the hunting contribution. 10 place. There are at least 9 existences stronger than this guy. There are more similar guys. Lee Hyun-sung's expression was complicated. He was relieved that the demon Earl was in the top 10, but at the same time he was discouraged. Dr. SSI is strong enough to fight these guys. Hyun-sung SSI can do it if you follow your story. I also can't guarantee that I can hunt demons higher ranked than him. In my current state, I could deal with an Earl-grade demon without opening a story. It wouldn't have been as easy if Bug Slaughter wasn't his story. Han Soo-young's pride also seemed hurt. Sheesh, pretending to be modest, aren't you deceiving people? You might have done it if you had fought with all your power. Didn't the abyssal black flame dragon hand you a story? I haven't succeeded them yet because the contents of the story are crazy. Why didn't you warn me when I said I would choose him? Were you fucking with me? The abyssal black flame dragon story was... I couldn't remember well, but considering the fact that the original contractor was delusional demon Kim Nam-woon, Han Soo-young's reaction was understandable. It would be a shameful story that would annihilate the soul just by inheriting it. The Dark Castle rankings, in proportion to the hunting contribution, will be announced. Finally, the rankings were determined. A ranking number was sent to the status window in front of all of us. The Incarnation Kim Dokja's ranking in Dark Castle is 11th place. 11th place. It wasn't bad. The rest of my party members had terrible expressions as if they were receiving their CSAT scores. TL, Korean University exams. Han Soo-young quickly ran to my side and glanced at my ranking window. Hey, you are quite high. Han Soo-young's expression hardened when she saw the number 11. There was a big difference in contribution. Han Soo-young and the others were probably in the hundreds. She wondered, will I be 11th place if I kill you now? Do you think you can win? I don't know. In any case, I am better than that Ajasi. Han Soo-young pointed out he passed out Kim Yompol. The Incarnation Kim Yompol's ranking in Dark Castle is number 101,123. The 102,123rd ranked Kim Yompol slept without knowing the world. Lee Jihai and Lee Gilyong, who had been unconscious since the beginning, received the ranks of 98,761 and 87,541, respectively. This was strange. Why was this Ajasi's rank lower than people who had been unconscious from the beginning? What about Lee Hyun-sung SSI? 636th place. Lee Hyun-sung's voice was gloomy. I hesitated to speak words of comfort, but Lee Hyun-sung opened his mouth first. It's fine. I received many reports like this during my school days. I'm somehow more motivated. It seemed there was no need for me to worry. Lee Hyun-sung was the type to become more devoted if he had a specific goal. Shin Yu-sung, who was standing beside me, shook when my eyes met hers. Don't look." She was like an elementary school student hiding a report card from her parents. I was a bit worried about this child. It doesn't matter what ranking you are right now. There will be many chances to rise up after going to the second floor. It depends on how hard Yu-sung works. Damn, I shouldn't say such lame things. Not everything would work out if you tried hard. Still, Shin Yu-sung seemed to sincerely accept my advice. Can I become strong enough, Ajasi? Of course, you're stronger than me. I spoke sincerely. In fact, Shin Yu-sung had more potential than anyone else here. Your stigma is about to blossom. Screening the story of your stigma. Shin Yu-sung would grow explosively once she received a stigma. No, even without a stigma, Shin Yu-sung was essential for the second floor of Dark Castle. It was a stage where the children could be active. However, I don't know why this ranking was suddenly given. If it merely for a competition, perhaps the person who reaches the top will receive a medal. It was Lee Hyun-sung who spoke. His words weren't wrong. I'm sure this was the purpose. There was an even more fundamental reason for the Dark Castle rankings. The moment I opened my mouth. The Demon King, Asmodeus, is interested in your presence. The Demon King, Astaroth, is watching you. The Demon King, Orobas, is hungry for your story. It wasn't just me. The other party members also received the message. The messages were much more disturbing than those sent by the constellations. The messages alone caused everyone to shake. In particular, Han Soo-young was completely frightened since she previously received the curse of the Demon King. A Demon King. Among them, a few had a status that could compare to the constellation. At the end of this scenario, we would fight a Demon King. Quack. The blade curved in a beautiful manner and cut off the head of a demon species. He was one without a story. Yu Jonghyuk had climbed up to the second floor and launched his full-scale plan to raise his ranking. As always, plans for the future were crammed in his head like training routines. In order to get to the third floor, I need to seek the 4 heavenly kings. The top rankers should be in the same section. One of the 10 evils is on the second floor. It is better not to bump into him. If I keep collecting stories like this, perhaps in 4 days. Then a message appeared in the air. Someone has spread your name with Death Scream. The Dark Castle rankers will remember your name. The Dark Castle rankers are watching for you. The Dark Castle rankers will aim for your story. Yu Jonghyuk frowned at the message. My name was suddenly spoken. It was strange. Death Scream is a demon curse. I haven't killed one yet who used that ability. Yumia's cheeks puffed up from beside him and she asked, "What is it, Oppa?" "It's nothing." Yu Jonghyuk hesitated for a moment before adding, "It seems that guy is doing something bothersome again." That guy. There is such a person. Yumiya watched her brother, who had spoken in a cold voice. There was a nuance different from usual in his voice. It was a small change, like a grain of rice, but Yumiya was able to perceive the change. It was because Yu Jonghyuk was her older brother. Are you referring to that ugly Ajasi? Oppa looks happy when talking about that Ajasi. Yu Jonghyuk was embarrassed when he saw his smiling sister and he replied sharply, "You are mistaken." Is that so? Yumiya laughed at Yu Jonghyuk. Yu Jonghyuk scowled and wanted to say something to her. The next moment, a bloody aura rose from Yu Jonghyuk's body. Yumiya thought he was really angry, but Yu Jonghyuk opened his mouth first. "Stop eavesdropping and come out, otherwise I will kill you." One part of the air seemed rigid, and a heavenly doll appeared from a crack in the air. It was a woman wearing a cloak. I'm sorry, it wasn't on purpose. Who are you? It's me, Yu Jonghyuk. The cloak was removed, revealing a surprising figure. Yu Jonghyuk knew this face. Not long ago, he had rescued her. Yu Sangha. It was Yu Sangha, who was the incarnation of the nebula Olympus. Chapter 158, Tomb of the Scenario 2. He hadn't met Yu Sangha in a week, and she seemed more haggard than before. However, her eyes were more dazzling than usual. "It seems you have inherited a pretty good story." Yu Jonghyuk slowly pulled out the heaven-shaking sword. The second floor of Dark Castle was a suitable stage for taking away the stories of others. Yu Sanga's story would be well worth it. This woman also wasn't there in my previous regressions. He saved her last time because of circumstances, but he couldn't leave an element of insecurity alone forever. One element in Kim Dokja was enough. Yu Sanga raised her hands and stepped back. "I didn't come to fight." "Then why did you come?" "I need your help. I told you not to get involved with me anymore. I rescued you at that time to repay my debt to Kim Dokja." "It is related to Kim Dokja's SI." Yu Jonghyuk's killing intent slightly subsided. "What do you mean?" The energy that was pressing down on her disappeared, and Yu Sanga opened her mouth. "In this scenario, Dokja SSI is going to die." "Kim Dokja would die," Yu Jonghyuk laughed. "Kim Dokja is capable of resurrection. I thought I told you before, but you must have not heard it." Yu Jonghyuk could guess Kim Dokja's abilities to a certain extent. It wasn't an endless resurrection, but Kim Dokja would be able to survive death a few more times. Thus, Kim Dokja's life wouldn't be threatened for the time being. "He should have resurrected by now. You haven't met him yet." This time Yu Sanga's eyes shook. Still, she didn't give in and spoke again. "It's not like that. If you leave it like this, Dokja Sasai will really die." "How do you know?" "I saw it." "You saw it." The next moment, a giant thread appeared behind Yu Sanga. It wasn't a strand from Ariadne. Looking closer, the thread wasn't made of yarn. It was made of very small strings. The strings were made of countless stories. Yu Jonghyuk knew the identity of the thread in the air that flowed like the giant fabric of fate. He knew but couldn't help feeling surprised. This was the symbol of the three goddesses of fate, the Moeri. Yu Jonghyuk thought about it. "You stole a prophecy from a constellation." Yu Sanga gently nodded. The enraged Yu Jonghyuk shouted, "Do you know what you have done, fate?" "I know, that's why I'm asking for help," Yu Jonghyuk SSI. Yu Jonghyuk's mind was complicated. The Moeri's fate wasn't simple a power to see the future. Rather, it was a prophecy that came from conclusions through big data. The most reasonable future was predicted through a combination of countless stories. In this way, fate wasn't absolute and seemed like it could change, but this never happened. So far, the prophecies of Olympus had never been wrong. Even Zeus, the lord of Olympus, couldn't escape from his fate. It was because the moment a prophecy was made, the whole probability of Olympus was used to realize this fate. "Please stop Kim Dokja Sasai, otherwise." Yu Sanga couldn't finish her words. The sparks around her body blocked her mouth. However, Yu Jonghyuk could clearly read the strings behind her. "Incarnation Kim Dokja will be killed by the person he loves most." "Wow, the plains are huge. Is this really the Dark Castle?" Lee Hyun-sung stared at the horizon with admiration. The vast expanse of plains and forest areas spread out in front of us. A river with an ominous aura flowed through the center of the plains. This river was a tributary of the Phoenix River. We finally arrived at the second floor of Dark Castle. "That's right, this is the second floor. It is a completely different place from the first floor." Unlike the first floor where a new scenario was in progress, the second floor had a scenario that had been going on for a very long time. I could see the appearance of some incarnations in the distance. They were soul incarnations who newly entered this floor with us. The incarnations didn't react when they saw us. Looking closely, they were receiving guidance from a Dakibai. "Congratulations to all the new incarnations who came to the second floor. The Abyss Plains is an opportunity for you to do anything." It was a Dakibai with a peculiar tone of voice whom I had never seen before. He had a visibly old appearance. He was a Dakibai who seemed to have worked for the Bureau for a very long time. It was natural if he was in charge of the scenario for the Abyss Plains. Demoted Dakibus were assigned to this scenario. I turned on my smartphone and found information on the second floor of Dark Castle in ways of survival. The Abyss Plains. The Dakibus call it the tomb of the scenario. The tomb of the scenario. The words caused me to feel refreshed. I had already come this far. Han Soo-young listened to the Dakibai and opened her mouth. Another jerk. What opportunity. He will just adjust the difficulty once he becomes angry. It wasn't just her. The other incarnations had become familiar with the Dakibus, and they looked at this one with distrust. This was the 9th scenario, and there was no way they would make a fuss about an opportunity. The Dakibai laughed as if he knew what they were thinking. Don't worry. There will be no interference from the Dakibus in this scenario. Regardless of whether the story is interesting or boring, we won't touch it. The incarnations murmured. To each other so far, the Dakibus had never said anything like this. They always wanted a more stimulating story. Why were they suddenly not interfering? What the hell are you planning? What does this mean? I know that you're all tired from the scenario. Still, I am telling you the truth. The updated main scenario has arrived. Main Scenario 9. Category Main. Difficulty. Clear conditions. Time limit. Compensation, none. Failure. All the conditions were private, and there was no time limit or failure condition. The incarnations had never received such a scenario before and were greatly confused. What? Nothing is revealed. Are you trying to fuck us with a shitty scenario again? The Dakibai laughed at the incarnation's violent reactions. So far, what have you been running for? For your family and friends, to become stronger, or to reign over others? Each one of you have your own answer. In my opinion, it is all a lie. You came here because you followed the scenario. The eyes of the incarnations were shaken, as their recent life was dismissed. The Dakibai continued speaking. However, future scenarios will be hard to overcome with such a mind. Passive beings can't survive in the star stream. Thus, this scenario won't ask for anything. A scenario that didn't require anything. The bodies of the incarnations trembled. There is no time limit or failure conditions. There is nothing to fail. You have to find the clear conditions yourself. Only beings who want to tell a story themselves will be able to move forward. Hoo-hoo, I wonder how many people will make such a choice. I pray that you won't fall asleep in this tomb. The Dakibai disappeared with these words. The incarnations lost their sense of purpose and started making a fuss. It was a bizarre sight. This was more peaceful than any scenario so far, but the incarnations seemed somewhat uneasy. It was like people were happier when there was an impossible goal. Lee Hyun-sung asked, Dr. SSI, what is this? Lee Hyun-sung was terribly confused. He had been filled with motivation to raise his rankings, only for a scenario with no clear conditions to appear. He must be discouraged. On the other hand, I was a bit worried. This scenario might be the most dangerous scenario for my party. The moment I was about to open my mouth, a voice was heard behind E. Where is this place? Lee Jihai and Lee Gilyoung had woken up. Lee Jihai was in great despair after confirming that her ranking was number 90, 8,761. I've never received such a rank in the mock tests. Of course, this was a lie. According to Ways of Survival, Lee Jihai wasn't good at studying. Dr. Hyung, Lee Gilyoung jumped like a grasshopper as soon as he saw me. Then he curled up and pretended to be calm. I knew you were alive. I believed in Hyung until the end. Lee Jihai ridiculed him. Kid, what are you talking about? You cried so much with a runny nose. Cried? Lee Gilyoung argued that he never cried and that he naturally knew I was alive. 10 minutes later, Lee Gilyoung couldn't control his emotions any longer. He let out a bit sob and rushed forward to hug my thighs. A scenario without a scenario. Lee Jihai heard the description from us and asked with a confused expression. How can we clear this? Lee Hyun-sung was worried. Is there something hidden? We will be able to clear the scenario if we find the hidden condition. I guess, if we all work together. I smiled bitterly as I watched Lee Jihai and Lee Hyun-sung. Indeed, simplicity was helpful. However, not everyone was simple. Excuse me, do we really need to clear it? It was Pink Kid Kim Yample who spoke. Li Jihai wondered, who is this woman? She's just a woman who happened to accompany us. I was too lazy to explain. She wouldn't believe me if I said this person was an uncle in his 40s. Meanwhile, Kim Yample was stuttering with half-closed eyes. Just, isn't it okay to stay like this, if we clear it? What nonsense are you suddenly saying? Do you know what is at the end of the scenarios? Kim Yample penetrated the essence of an unexpected place. I hadn't expected him to say such a line. Li Jihai was confused. What? I don't know if it is bad or good for us to keep doing the scenarios in the constantly occurring scenarios. We are just the toys of the constellations. Even if we clear this scenario, we don't know what the next one will be like. We can die at any time. The expressions of the party members became disturbed by Kim Yample's words. It was because he was right. No one knew how these scenarios would end. No one knew how and when they would die. Everyone ran up to this point because they would die if they didn't clear the scenarios. However, this scenario had no time limit or failure condition. Li Jihai bit her lips. Then what? You will stay here. Where do you think this is? It is a dangerous place where demons are wandering around. Before Li Jihai finished talking, large demon species started to gather on the plains. They were demons higher than 5th grade. Li Jihai laughed like she expected it. Look, they're already here. Everyone gather. The incarnations nearby gathered around our party. The ones approaching were the 4th grade demon species, devil bears. There was approximately 20 of them. We could overcome them if I used electrification and my party members worked together. Of course, the other incarnations didn't know my strength and felt despair. These monsters. At this moment, a bright light shone from the other side of the devil bears. It was due to the white flames. The devil bears shrieked as they were burnt by the divine fire. How powerful was the ability to be able to slaughter a 4th grade demon species? This stigma was. Li Jihai shouted. It was naturally Yong Hee-won's hell flames ignition. Yong Hee-won discovered us and made a startled expression. In particular, she was shocked by the sight of me. I waved awkwardly at Yong Hee-won, who nodded hesitantly. There was some discomfort in her gaze. What? Yong Hee-won was riding a black unicorn. How did she tame that monster? Other people riding black unicorns came over with Yong Hee-won and quickly defeated the devil bears. The incarnations called out Yong Hee-won's name. Wow, the judge of destruction. Yong Hee-won came closer, and Li Jihai ran towards her. You are really alive. Did you come here first? Jihai, I'm sorry, let's talk later. Yong Hee-won turned her back to Li Jihai. Li Jihai was grouchy and walked back to my side. Yong Hee-won led the people in a natural manner, as if she was already accustomed to this. Everybody follow me. I will guide you to a safe place. A safe place. The discomfort inside me increased. The incarnations were bewitched by Yong Hee-won's overwhelming force and followed her. We also followed her. We spent approximately 1 hour crossing the plains. Then a high wall hidden in a forest was revealed. It was a solid wall that no demon species could surpass. The incarnations were captivated by the sight when a voice came from somewhere. Welcome, was it difficult to come here? Thank you for the trouble, now you are safe. The incarnations murmured. Yong Hee-won was staring at me with a complicated gaze. At this moment I realized what happened. Damn it, I see. This place was that guy fortress. A man appeared on top of the parapet. He gave off a powerful atmosphere that made it clear he was the owner of this place. The demon, who embraced the most peaceful despair in the world, laughed as he looked down at us. You no longer have to complete the scenarios. Chapter 159, Tomb of the Scenario 3. There was no need to keep performing the scenarios. Everyone gathered at the fortress were wary. What the hell does that mean? Some people listened to his words, but most of them didn't. He must be a swindler. He should make sense. What? There is no need to keep performing the scenarios. This is a trick for him to gobble up the rewards alone. These people were incarnations who survived up to the 9th scenario. There were many scammers in Seoul, even if Jumho stations Chin In Ho and Chungmura's Gong Pildu were removed. The incarnations here were one of those scammers or those who came here after defeating them. That's why none of them were easily caught by a honeyed tongue. The man on the parapet opened his mouth like he had read their thoughts. You don't believe. It is understandable. 9 scenarios isn't long, but it also isn't short. I can guess what you have gone through and the life you must have lived to come here. The basics of a scammer was to pretend to understand the other person. There were already people fed up with this. Do you think I will be deceived by that? What is your purpose? What do you want to say? The people who couldn't stand it started shouting. Then the man laughed. It was such a beautiful laugh that it was hard to think of him as a scammer. It is literally what I said. You no longer need to fight. You must have heard the Dakibai's explanation. This dark castle scenario has no time limit or failure conditions. If you're smart, you should already understand what this means. I looked to the side and saw that Kim Yomple's eyes were shining. You can continue to live in this scenario area. You can eat, sleep in, and do whatever you want. Respect the rights of your life and forget the compulsion to break the scenario. You can finish your life here, just like it was before the destruction began. The rights of our life, don't talk bullshit. How can we live in a place where demons are roaming? We have a place to go back to. People shouted like they were refuting evil. Then the man asked, go back. Where will you return to? Of course, the place where we lived. Do you mean the perished planet? It isn't destroyed, not yet. Everybody already knows. The moment the scenario begun, your planet is walking the path towards destruction. If you go back, you will only see ruins. Even if you break the scenario, the last thing you will see is destruction. Who are you to say that? What do you know? I know. The planet where I lived has long been destroyed by the scenario. The shaken crowd fell silent. This person lost his home a long time ago to the scenario. The man who stayed in Dark Castle for longer than anyone else was speaking to them now. That's why I can say with confidence that there is no safer place in the star stream than here. For the first time, people's spirits weakened. Their eyes were still disbelieving, but they were listening to his story. Someone asked in a loud voice, who are you? My name is Reinhard von Gerba. I am someone who came to this land 800 years earlier than you. I am the owner of this fortress, paradise. Then the door of the fortress opened. The expressions of the people changed as they saw the scenery inside. Reinhard saw their expressions and smiled. I once again welcome you. Welcome to paradise. Paradise? There were numerous references to it in ways of survival. The tomb of the scenario, the nest of incarnations, flowers blooming on the plains of despair, these were some of the descriptions for this place. In fact, most of them were true. This place is. All the party members except for me were enchanted by the sights in front of them. Lee Jihai, Lee Gilyung, Shin Yusung, and even Lee Hyunsung. In particular, Lee Hyunsung rubbed his eyes several times, as if the sight in front of him was unbelievable. There were residential and market areas on both sides of the main street. Voices filled with unprecedented energy could be heard. Selling the legs of the demon bug, have a taste, recovers your fatigue. Selling farm-grown Sancho berries, it is useful for recovering stamina. The merchants at the market were friendly and customers who paid for their goods were satisfied. People of various races and nationalities gathered, but no one seemed to discriminate or threaten each other. All the incarnations who entered the fortress were baffled by the suddenly bright atmosphere. What on earth? Until a moment ago, the words paradise and peace were just nonsense to them. Yet that nonsense was being presented in front of them. Paradise? Some people were so surprised that they flopped to the ground. One of the hasty incarnations groaned while dropping a weapon. A friendly hand was held out to him. Are you okay? All injured people come here. The Paradise Clinic treats all the wounded for free. We will teach you the medicinal techniques. Learn about the difference between ether and magic power. Anyone who wants to use sword energy can learn it. Anyone is welcome. The people living in paradise weren't stingy about sharing. They exchanged their knowledge and regarded helping someone as a virtue. There was even cross-species communication. A demon with horns on his head smiled and waved at us. Ah, a demon! Some surprised incarnations pulled out their weapons, and the guards in the fortress quickly approached. Please put that away. What are you talking about? He is a demon. Such hatred is prohibited here. He is also a resident of paradise. Our resident. The perplexed incarnations hesitated, and the demon who waved at them came over. I am a demon, but I won't hurt you. The prejudice that all demons will eat humans makes me sad. The incarnations made bemused expressions at the words. Their eyes showed they couldn't figure out what was going on. Similar scenes kept occurring. Demons, humans, and other species joined forces to build houses, went to the pub together, or sat next to each other on outdoor terraces. They often sent welcoming gestures to this side. The party members were distracted by the sights that were like a tourist advertisement. The character Lee Hyun-sung is shaken by the surrounding scenery. The character Lee Ji-hai is agitated by the surrounding atmosphere. My companions' hearts were conveyed in real time. This was the first piece they encountered after the scenario began. It wasn't strange that their minds would shake. People who lived ordinary lives didn't change their essence just because they carried a knife. Everything was the result of an outside force. Now, for the first time, they could escape from that outside force. It was natural to be seduced. We saw Jung Hee-won's figure in the distance. Jung Hee-won was talking to someone. It was a woman I had seen before. Thank you so much for that time. I can't say enough thanks. It's nothing. I'm glad that you're doing well. The young woman talking to Jung Hee-won glanced at me, and her eyes widened. Her emotional state changed quickly. Surprise, fear, and gratitude. Perhaps this person is. Dr. Sasai. The woman exclaimed, you are the person from that time. I haven't forgotten your grace in saving my life. At first, I was a bit confused, but I remembered when I saw the child holding the woman's hand. Are you from Jumho Station? Do you remember? Daeyoung, you should say hello. Hello. They were the mother and daughter who fought against the Cheoldu group at Jumho Station. They didn't join our party but managed to survive until now. The mother and daughter were working at a farm here and gave us a beautiful basket. I tried to refuse, but it was useless. We never could have made it here if it wasn't for your help. Thanks to you, I could start over again. I really appreciate it. The mother and daughter had a new home and seemed to gain a new life. I looked at the mother and daughter moving away, and the memories of Jumho Station flashed through my mind. The regret that I didn't save more people, and the cowardly way I comforted myself by saying it was for the best. The child in the distance suddenly turned and looked at me. A smile spread across the child's face. A mild guilt flooded in. My hypocrisy was given an undeserved reward. Maybe Jung Hee-won also felt like this. Jung Hee-won looked at the mother and daughter before saying to me, congratulations on your resurrection. It took a bit longer this time. Isn't your response too ordinary? Ji-hai and Gil-young started crying. Should I do that? I don't want it. I looked around with a smile, while a difficult expression appeared on Jung Hee-won's face. She hesitated for a moment before opening her mouth. Dr. SI, can we talk for a minute? Jung Hee-won had come here 4 days ago. She used the power of Hell Flame's ignition to clear the first floor in the shortest time and quickly climbed to the second floor. Then she reached paradise. It was a place where the shackles of the scenario could be removed. Of course, Jung Hee-won didn't believe the man's words. On the first day, she felt disbelief, and on the second day, she doubted everything. She was shaken on the third day, and then I came on the fourth day. Jung Hee-won said, I suddenly thought about what it meant to continue with the scenario. Jung Hee-won wasn't brainwashed. In the first place, paradise itself was a sweet drug. I smiled bitterly and asked her, weren't you shaken too quickly? Maybe it has always been this way. Jung Hee-won smiled bitterly. Let me go, I'll pay coins. I'll pay the value of what I stole. Let me go. As we walked down the street, Scenes of prisoners being dragged away by the guards could be seen. Some of them were people who entered the fortress with me. It seemed they couldn't abandon the old habit of taking other people's things. Young Hee-won looked at the man being dragged and said, "This place is better than Seoul." Yes, species don't discriminate against each other and they work hard together. There are houses for everyone to live and places to work. She spoke like she was making excuses. We don't have to be betrayed by colleagues or worry about the monsters who appear at night. I watched Young Hee-won, who was saying such words, the judge of destruction, Young Hee-won. She was a sword that I crafted myself in this world. Maybe Young Hee-won was the woman who killed the most people in my group, a person who had to kill everyone to protect my principle of non-killing. We don't have to live chasing the scenario. We don't need to have nightmares because we killed someone. There is also no more need to lose anyone. The hardest blade was the easiest to break. It was the hardest, so it was wielded the most. Thus, it was damaged the most and lost its sharpness the most. That's why it broke faster than other swords. This is a good place. My words caused Young Hee-won's eyes to shake. I stared into those eyes as I kept talking. I think this is a safe place. It wasn't a lie. There is no safer place in Dark Castle than here. No, maybe. It isn't easy to find a safer place in all the scenarios. I didn't want to admit it, but it was true. Paradise was truly such a place. Just as I, perhaps. I hurried as if I knew what she would say. Yes, I won't stay here. Why? This place isn't the end. Just as I knows the future. In the past, I had a talk with Young Hee-won in the theater dungeon. Young Hee-won had asked me about the future, and I told her she didn't exist there. It was because she wasn't in the original novel, a character I didn't know the future of. I told her, I need to continue with the scenario. Young Hee-won thought about my words. She looked at the people of paradise. There were people smiling, talking, and willing to live again. Just as I, what is the end you are thinking about? I can't tell you. Then that end, is it better than this place? I couldn't easily answer because it was a question from Young Hee-won, not anyone else. If you don't continue with the scenario, will everyone be unhappy? I wondered if the ending I wanted was a place more beautiful than this paradise. Could everyone be happy when that ending was reached? We stared up at the sky without speaking. It felt like there was something precious there, but I had forgotten what it was. As if she had woken up from a brief dream, Young Hee-won opened her mouth. The master of this place is looking for Just as I nodded. Chapter 160, Tomb of the Scenario 4. Young Hee-won and I passed through the central shopping district of Paradise and arrived at a small hill. The place where the master resided was naturally gorgeous. It was the same with the castle in Peaceland. However, the Lord of Paradise wasn't a normal existence. The constellation, demon-like judge of fire, has wide eyes. The constellation, patron of the young and the travelers, reveals discomfort. As I moved closer to the hill, the constellations of Eden reacted violently. Patron of the young and the travelers. Perhaps a new archangel was paying attention to me. Based on the faint pressure felt from the indirect message, it seemed to be a constellation that was at least on the level of Uriel. It meant 3 angels in Eden was following me. The constellation, prisoner of the golden headband, is looking forward to your rampage. The constellation, abyssal black flame dragon, wonders about your stigma. The great sage, the equal of heaven, and the black dragon were the same. All 3 regular members of my channel gathered together. I felt pleased because the great sage, the equal of heaven, helped with the formation of my nebula last time. The constellation, prisoner of the golden headband, has snorted and let out snot. It was hard to believe from the indirect messages that this was the great sage, the equal of heaven. In fact, did he actually write the indirect messages? For example, there was the clone I saw. Either way, if secretive plotter came, then all 4 of the early people would be gathered. The constellation, secretive plotter, is watching the situation with interested eyes. Scarily enough, the last one came as I was thinking about him. Secretive plotter. I wasn't able to confirm his face at the constellation banquet. It was clear that he was a narrative-grade constellation, but no matter how I thought about it, I couldn't remember his modifier. I suddenly had doubts. Was it possible this strong presence didn't appear in the original novel? Many constellations are paying attention to your actions. We are here. Jung Hee-won spoke, and I stopped at the road up to the hill. There was a white brick house on top of the hill. A white house on the hill. I didn't know the intentions behind it, but the taste was unique. I'll wait here. Call me if anything happens. I nodded, but I already knew that Jung Hee-won wouldn't run right away because I called her. In paradise, there was no one who could win again the Paradise Master. I climbed up along the road, and a shadow appeared near the brick house. A man with a beautiful appearance stood there, as if he had been carved into a sculpture. "Oh, you're here." If I didn't have fourth wall, I would have stopped breathing from his beauty. Yu Jonghyuk was also handsome, but this person's appearance couldn't be described. It was a demonic beauty. "I'm sorry, but please wait a moment." These guys were shy around strangers. The man was watering the flowers on the hill. The flowers were blooming towards the air. Their petals were wide open, like they were trying to swallow the sky, but they were just small flowers. I knew the name of the flower. The perpetual motion. It was a collective term for things that worked forever without being supplied energy sources from outside. But here, it was merely the name of a flower. The man asked, "Do you know this flower?" "New flowers bloom almost every day." "You have great knowledge." It was naturally because I read Ways of Survival. The flowers of paradise, the perpetual motion. The flower, which only grew on this hill, bloomed at dawn and yielded fruit at night. The fruit fell before dawn and would be used as fertilizer to grow more flowers. Perpetual motion was a flower that repeated forever. The man said this flower was very lovely. I never get tired looking at them. Their vitality is truly amazing. However, the name is wrong. If it was really perpetual motion, the flower should grow well without water. It is such a beautiful flower, but you can only saw the flaws. The man laughed and looked at me. "I haven't introduced myself. I am the Master of Paradise, Reinhard von Gerbe." I knew him well. He was one of the most famous 10 evils in Ways of Survival. Reinhard smiled. "Nice to meet you, Kim Dokja." As expected, he already knew who I was. The exclusive skill, character list, is activated. There is too much information about this person. Character list is converted to character summary list. Character list summary. Character, Reinhard von Gerbe. Private attribute, Demon Marquis Legend, one who pursues an impossible dream hero. Exclusive skill, Demon's Eyes LV. 10. Advanced Weapons Training, Advanced Mental Barrier LV. 10. Stigma, Master of Paradise LV. 10. Total Stats, Physique LV. 99 Strength LV. 99 Agility LV. 99 Magic Power LV. 99. Second in the Dark Castle rankings. It was truly great. His overall stats had exceeded the limits of the scenario, and almost every skill had reached the maximum. Maybe Reinhard was the limit of this scenario. I stared at him and Reinhard clapped. It is difficult when you are burning with too much hostility. The perpetual motion will be broken. I asked, "Why did you call me?" "I was wondering about the rumors. You have caused a loud buzz the moment you entered this scenario." Reinhard was different from the 10 evils I had met so far. If Gong Pildu and Li Xiaohua were growing into the 10 evils, Reinhard was already near completion. A being like you entering the scenario is a threat to me. The second-ranked Demon Marquis is too humble. You know about that. Your preliminary investigation is thorough. His killing intent suddenly sprang out. Was he going to ambush me now? I hesitated. I didn't think I could beat or kill him. It wouldn't be an easy fight. The outcome couldn't be guaranteed, yet the reason for my hesitation. He said, "In my world, Dark Castle was the 34th scenario." Perhaps it was because I saw his paradise. Reinhard watched the scenery of the fortress below the hill. I remember the first time I came here 800 years ago. At the time, There was nothing on the plains. Only the rankings were given. The incarnations were busy hunting and killing each other, despite there being nothing in the scenario. I imagined them first falling on the plains. All beings in Dark Castle evolved into demons over time. The first ones to enter Dark Castle weren't demons from the beginning. They ascended to a higher species in order to become stronger. In a situation with no time limits or failure conditions, they focused only on getting a higher ranking. Endless war and slaughter. It is the only thing that the incarnations could do when the story had disappeared. The disappearance of the scenario wasn't a happy thing. Whether it was a constellation or an incarnation, every being eventually needed a story. However, Reinhardt didn't agree with this. He was tired of being a toy in someone's scenario and no longer wanted to be a slave to the scenario. Thus, I created Paradise. I knew Reinhardt was sincere. The Docubus call this a tomb, but not me. I became a blood-stained demon after many years, but I believe real life can only bloom after the scenario has disappeared. The words were filled with deep emotions. I might have been caught if I hadn't read the original novel. The purest evil. That was what Yu Jonghyuk called Reinhardt. Constellation Kim Dokja, you want to go to the next scenario. That's right. Stop, such a thing doesn't exist. As expected, this was what he wanted. I've lived for 800 years and it isn't the first time I've seen someone like you. Numerous strong people have found hidden scenarios, but none have cleared Dark Castle. Everyone becomes desperate and frustrated by the void of this scenario. Reinhardt continued speaking. I don't want you to be like them. What do you want? Constellation Kim Dokja, please protect Paradise with me. I need your help. I stood silently by his side and touched the petals of the perpetual motion. Before the surprised Reinhardt could stop me, the trembling flower quickly shriveled and the fruit fell. The fallen fruit suddenly became rotten and rolled down the hillside. The guard passing by saw it but didn't pay much attention. It was because they had no intention of cutting out the rotten part of Paradise. Yua, release me. It is wrong. I didn't steal anything. The criminals of Paradise were being transported to the underground area below the hill. I knew where they were being dragged. Some constellations are laughing unpleasantly. Just as permanent institutions didn't exist, Paradise wasn't free. They would probably become Paradise's fertilizer. It was just like the rotten fruit became the plant's fertilizers. A small earthquake occurred deep underground. It seemed to be the cry of a terrible monster. I told him, Reinhardt, there is no paradise. A permanent institution can't exist. Reinhardt didn't say anything. It looked like he was trying to test me. However, he would soon regret it. Give me the next scenario. A look of panic appeared in Reinhardt's eyes for the first time. I know that you found it 700 years ago. To be exact, you and a few strong people have found it. How do you? You have even challenged the scenario, isn't that right? However, you failed and survived by yourself. Then this paradise was made. I didn't miss the trembling in his fingertips as he looked after the petals. He said he created this place to help people find life. It wasn't true. This was just a refuge for an impossible scenario. All the scenarios of the star stream exist for stimulation. There is no stimulation in Paradise. Everything is too peaceful. Don't believe that the deal with the Dakibai will last forever. The star stream will never allow this space to exist for a long time. Reinhardt was quiet for a while before slowly opening his mouth. Constellation Kim Dokja, what else do you know? His tone had changed. A faint but scary energy was flowing from him. His attitude towards me had changed from this conversation. It changed from a helper he was anticipating to an enemy more threatening than anyone else. All of it, even things you don't know. I saw a dark cloud coming from afar. In such a situation, there was no chance of a cloud coming in. Thus, this rain cloud was definitely under the direction of the Docubus. They were sitting around and watching everything, even if they weren't interfering. It was because this world was a scenario, even without a scenario. I sighed lightly and prepared for the end of the tragedy. Reinhardt, You will die and paradise will fall.